On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of the gentleman who begins fascism. Who is it, Miss Murphy? Mussolini. Now, friendly reminder before we get started here. Today we're doing a lecture. Monday you have 1 through 10. Tuesday 11 through 20. Wednesday test, focus, spice, map, or do. Map is entirely on your own. The map is in the front of the room. If you do not get your permission slip signed, you're going to miss 2 other video clips I'm going to have. Today I'm doing Enemy at the Gates. I'm probably going to be doing Schindler's List on Monday, and then I'm probably going to do Saving Private Ryan on Monday, Schindler's List on Tuesday. Get it signed. What?
So are we not doing the primary source on Monday?
There's no primary source, my love.
Oh.
You didn't pick one up. What?
Who's Franco?
Franco is Spain. I'm going to get to him in a second here. So, what I would like you to do is take out your notes. Let's go. Let's start labeling our teams. So, spoiler alert, Allies win. If you didn't know, you're going to win. Okay, so your allies, the 2 names of the 2 teams is Allied powers, Axis powers. The reason why it's called Axis powers is because they signed the Axis Treaty. The Axis Treaty is between Italy, Germany, Austria, Hungary. Eventually we'll have Japan be thrown into the mix. So there's a line here because the Allies originally start with England and France. Okay? When Hitler declares war on September 1st, 1939, with the official start of the war, the invasion of Poland, England and France are the only 2 countries in the world who declare. You're going to see that the USSR is going to be joining a little bit later because they signed a secret treaty with Hitler saying that Hitler won't invade and Russia wouldn't invade them. Guess who broke his word? Hitler. I can't believe that. A stand-up guy like Hitler would break his word? I can't believe it. Anyway, so Hitler and the USSR, Stalin are going to sign a secret treaty. Eventually, Hitler, of course, is going to screw him over and invade. So eventually, the USSR, Stalin is going to be on the Allies. And then the U.S. isn't going to be pulled into the war officially until 1941 with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. But England and France are going to be fighting in 1939. What do you got?
They outlawed secret treaties.
Well, of course. But when Japan invaded Manchuria, no one did anything. When Mussolini invaded Ethiopia and he killed 250,000 people in a week, no one said anything. When they invaded Libya, no one said anything. When Hitler increased his military, no one said anything. When he invaded the Sudeland, no one said anything. When he invaded the Rhineland, no one said anything. So, everything's out the window. Alright, Axis powers. Germany. Of course, we know Hitler's leading that one. Italy is being led by Mussolini. Austria-Hungary, Sound of Music. That's all you really need to know. They join the team. They don't really do anything. And then Japan, you got Togo. He is your military leader. We have the Emperor, but he's kind of just sitting around being Emperor. Not really doing much. What? Of course, his feet doesn't touch the ground. Makes sense. Alright, so that's all I want you to write down for now. Here we go. So, World War II is going to break out. Of course, we have a lot of tension. Of course, Japan is going to be the one who is really going to start the fight, of course, with their invasion of Manchuria, as we know. We're going to see the word appeasement. You need to write it down. It's up in the front. Appeasement is when people give in to the demands of an aggressor. Appeasement, it's right over here. Policy of appeasement is when countries give in to the demands of an aggressor. Okay? This is what England and France are doing all the time. They appease, they give in to the demands of Hitler on a regular basis. Okay? So, we're going to see this specifically. A perfect example of this is in the Munich Conference, which we'll get to here in a second. So, Japan's war on China. First of all, we already know that they invaded Manchuria with no consequence. The second thing you do need to write down is the rape of Nanjing. You do need to know this. Now, it's a very important thing that happened last year. Japan has always denied, and has not taken any responsibility. Last year, they officially came forward and said, yes, we did this. My bad. Well, they're currently in courts right now trying to figure out how much in reparations are they paying the people who are suffering. How did they suffer? Thank you so much for asking. So, the city of Nanjing was captured by the Japanese, and the Japanese are going to take full advantage of it. First of all, they're going to use about 40,000 Chinese as practice for their bayonets. What that means is they put about 60 poles into the ground. They tied Japanese men, women, and children to the pole, Chinese men, women, and children, while the Japanese soldiers come up with their bayonets and practice stabbing underneath the rib cage, through the rib cage, and seeing all the different pressure points. How they did it is behind, they had a cage, and they held the next rounds of Chinese people. So you were waiting in these cages until the person in front of you died, and then you were pulled from the cage, tied to the pole, so another Japanese soldier could practice. 400,000 Chinese people are going to be killed in this fashion. It's pretty damn jarring. 7,000 women are going to be captured and literally raped, murdered, maimed, beaten, gang raped, whatever you wanted. They were called pleasure women, and they were put in these pleasure houses for the Japanese soldiers to keep them company at night. Now, if your so desire was to kill a woman while you had sex with her, then please take her with you. The ages went from 6 years old, which aren't women when they're 6, for God's sake, to 16. 16. 7,000 women are going to be forced through these things. And 1/3 of all homes are going to be destroyed. So the people of Beijing are just straight up starving and burning down in the city. It's important that you hear these things. It's important that you recognize these things, because think of all of the horrible humanity. You can't talk about the Holocaust and not talk about the destruction of Beijing. Can we agree? It's important that we recognize where humanity has failed us. Okay? So, Chinese resistance. You need to know that the Chinese are fighting back, but why can't the Chinese win? Why? Okay, yes, years of imperialism. Imperialism has stopped them from doing what? Industrializing. Okay, so keep in mind, they're fighting back. They just can't do much. So, Italy is going to be your second country to break the Treaty of Versailles. They're going to invade Ethiopia. Who can raise their hand and tell me why the hell did they pick Ethiopia off the map? Think about it. Makes a lot of logical sense. Kira. Why, Will?
One of the only countries that hasn't been taken over.
Why? Yeah.
Because they beat Italy.
They beat Italy during the Scramble of Africa. So, now that Italy, under Mussolini, is fully industrialized, Mussolini's like, you know what? Let's go teach those Ethiopians a lesson, because they were embarrassed by the defeat. So what he does is he marches down there with 2,000 soldiers and kills 275,000 people in the span of a week. That is a big screw you for embarrassing us. This is straight up revenge. How disgusting. Can we agree? How disgusting. No one says anything. No one says anything about Beijing. No one's saying anything about Ethiopia. So he's like, well, cool. I'm just going to take Libya and Albania too. No one says anything. It's a policy of appeasement. Well, Michael. Of course. Of course. Everyone knows. But everyone's kind of like, oh, I got my own economic nationalism. Oh, I got protectionism. I got to protect my economy. Or you have Americans starving here in the United States. England has the same problem. France has the same problem. We're like, let me worry about my people. Okay? So, Germany, Adolf Hitler. Okay? Hitler is looking at what's happening in Japan and like, no one cares about Japan. Damn, Mussolini, I see you going around killing all these people, taking all these territories. So Hitler's like, well, if he can get away with it, why can't I get away with it? So the first thing Hitler does is he remilitarizes. You know, in what document does it say Hitler has to have, Germany has to have a small military? War Guild Clause and the Treaty of Versailles, all that stuff, small military. So he builds up his military, guess what? No one says anything to him. So he's like, okay, let's try this. I'm going to take the Rhineland back. It's Germany's breadbasket. France got it after World War I. He takes it, guess what? Everyone's like, Hitler, you know what? It was wrong of us to take it. You're right. You can have it. So then Hitler's like, well, cool. Hell yeah. I want Czechoslovakia now. And everyone's like, Hitler, let's talk about it. So, after Hitler is threatening to invade Czechoslovakia, they call the Munich Conference, which you definitely need to write down. Now, the Munich Conference is England, France, Italy, and and Germany all sit down. And Hitler's like, hey guys, I just want to be honest with you. All I want is Czechoslovakia. And if I get Czechoslovakia, I will be a satisfied power. I will not do anything else. So England and France get together and like, hey, England, what do you think? And they're like, if he gets that, he'll stop doing this. So they're like, you know what? Let's give it to him. What is this called when we give it to him? Appeasement. This is a big thing, as you keep seeing over and over again. So Neville Chamberlain, okay, goes back to, they give it to Hitler, and Hitler's like, oh my God, thank you so much for Czechoslovakia. You know, I really appreciate it. You know, glad we're all on the same page. Peace for everyone. So Neville Chamberlain goes back to England, and he's like, I did it, son. I secured peace forever. Oh, Hitler lied to us. He's going to invade Poland on September 1st, 1939. You need to write that down. Okay, now, because Hitler is kind of a turd, and by kind of I mean really a turd, and I would not use the word turd except I'm in school, which is why I'm using the word turd and not the word I actually use to describe Hitler. About 4 years after, during the height of the war, when Hitler's at his most powerful, after the Munich Conference, that is, he said that if England and France didn't give him Czechoslovakia, he never would have invaded Poland because he wasn't ready to go to war. He probably would have said dim. And he would have given some concessions, and the war probably wouldn't have happened. That's a real big salt in the wound. Can you agree? But because of the appeasement, he says that's why. So, Hitler invades Poland September 1st, 1939. This is the official start of World War I. At this point, England and France have realized Germany is not a satisfied power, and they have to go to war. So England and France declare war on Germany. Now, it is important to know that Hitler and Stalin, and you're going to want to write this down, sign a secret treaty. Hitler and Stalin sign a secret treaty of no war between the two. Okay, which we're going to get to here in a second. Guess what? Spoiler alert, he voids it. Okay, so you do need to know how Hitler fights during this war, and it is hella effective. Okay, so how does Hitler fight? And you need to know this for life, because like you should know it, and it's going to be on your exam. So Hitler fights World War II using a strategy called blitzkrieg, which means lightning war, and it is so damn effective, which is why he's virtually untouchable for the first 3 years of the war. Okay, so what it is overhead bombing. So they just have planes just straight up blowing cities apart. So in the middle of the night, they just send planes over, and they just start tearing apart cities. This is killing soldiers and what? Civilians. This is a civilian war. World War I is more military deaths than civilians. Civilians are dying because of starvation, but it's not really. World War II is fought in the cities, ladies and gentlemen. It's not fought on a front, it's fought in the cities. So it goes overhead bombing, where they're just indiscriminately blowing up things. Then you have fast-moving tanks. So as soon as the bombing ceases, there's tanks at the door of the city. And those tanks are coming in, and they are just overtaking the city. Any type of resistance, they're literally mowing down. And then right behind the fast-moving tanks, they're going to overwhelm them with soldiers. So, Poland is the first time we see blitzkrieg in full force. Poland falls in 3 days. Poland falls in 3 days. Okay? So the first time we see blitzkrieg, it falls in 1939. Okay? France is going to fall in 1940, and it falls in 4. He's figured it out. Now, he's conquered a bunch of smaller territories like Netherlands, Belgium, stuff like that. But the big two for blitzkrieg is Poland and France. Now, one of the big things to know with France is they do light bombing in Paris. You can raise your hand and tell me why there's light bombing in Paris. Henry. Oh, don't give them too much credit. Why didn't they bomb the city of Paris? Ren, you want to educate them? Why did Hitler not bomb the city of Paris?
Art.
He wanted the art. Paris is the cultural center of art for the whole world. Okay, it has, what's the name of the damn museum? What, the Louvre, okay, has the largest collection of art in the world. Don't judge, okay, Evelyn, I don't talk about art that much. Okay, so as the largest cultural center of art, the Jewish collections in Paris are some of the finest ones in the world. He was building what was going to be the greatest museum of art in the history of the world, so he didn't want to bomb the city of Paris because of that. Who here has ever been to Paris? Keep your hand up if you've ever been to Paris and London. Okay, which city looks brand new? London. Which city looks old as hell? Paris. London was built in the 1950s. The reason is because of the Battle of Britain, which we're going to go to here in 2 seconds. So, okay, they're going to do a light bombing of France, which is when I am in Paris for the first time in my life this summer. And I'm just breathing in this Parisian air, sitting at a cafe, having a cup of tea, not wine. I wouldn't drink wine. What?
Is that having a cigarette here in Paris?
Maybe. I'll smoke my first cigarette ever. It's supposed to be like the natives, you know? And have my little bread, my little baguette on my thing, and I'll be like, oh my god, this is wonderful. It will look like Paris because Hitler didn't bomb it to hell. When I then go to England, and I'm sitting at the pub having my fish and chips, it'll look like I'm sitting in Chicago. Because it's a brand new city. We just have funny accents. Kind of like Chicago. Funny accents too. Anyway. Okay? Now, it is important that you understand the practice is going to happen in Spain under Franco. Okay? The famous piece of art that comes out of it is what, Ren? Franco, the bombing of...
Guernica. What?
Guernica, for the rest of us. Yes, for the rest of us. Guernica is going to come out of it, the bombing of Spain under Franco. This is how Hitler practices, comes up with a strategy in Spain, uses it in Poland, uses it in France. Now, remember, what?
We just talked about the Picasso last period. So it's this huge Cuban mural that traveled around the world and it depicts like the horror of this bombing of the city.
And this is his practice. So, with the two countries that declared war with Hitler's invasion of Poland were what? England and France, right? So, France is gone. Who's the only country left? England. So, all of Germany's might is now focused on England. For about 9 months, Hitler is bombing. Okay? For about 3 months, it's 24/7. For about 9 months, it's the whole thing. Evelyn, do you want to go get a sip of water? You're more than welcome to go there. Okay? So the Battle of Britain. Britain is the only country still fighting Hitler. So all of Hitler's attention is on this country. So he bombs it for 3 months, 24/7. Every day, all day. Okay? And then for a total of 9 months, he bombs it every night. Okay? So, have you ever read the terrible story of Narnia? And the witch, the wizard, or whatever crap, whatever it is. Okay? How does the book start?
They're like
They are on a train. All the kids of London are on a train heading to the countryside. Why? They're escaping the bombing of London. They put all the kids onto trains and they sent them to a bunch of families and farms out in the countryside to help protect. The only people who are living in London at the time are the most important people who are helping the cause or working in the factories and stuff like that. That's what the Battle of Britain is really going to take for. Okay, so they're going to completely destroy the city. They are going to survive. Hitler gets distracted, so he decides he's going to take the Suez Canal, which saves England from full force of Hitler. Okay, they survive, and it's because of Churchill. Keep calm, carry on. You're probably going to have that tacky poster hanging on your college dorm, just like everyone else does, yeah? Okay, so if you've ever seen The Darkest Hour, just came out. It was so good. It was so good. It's all about right before the Battle of Britain really begins. So fall of France is going to happen. Battle of Britain. Okay, when we talk about the Battle of Britain, it's really destructive. Okay, it's going to completely destroy what life is like over in here. You want to see some funny photos because Hitler is such a guy. Okay, so the fall of France, here we go. So the fall of France is going to happen. Okay, Hitler, this is when Hitler finds out he won France. He's dancing. Is that not an amazing photo? No? Okay, cool. I think it's one of my favorites. Hitler, just, posting up for some selfie pics. Okay, this is him after he conquered France. Okay, just wanted to come in, see. Okay, here they are, occupation. Now, half of France is going to stay free, which means it's going to be run under the Vichy government, which is a pawn government. Have you all seen Inglourious Basterds, I assume, at this point? How am I supposed to make references to few people if you can't understand the damn references? Charles de Gaulle, if you fly into Paris, you fly into de Gaulle Airport. It's named after the guy who's going to lead the French resistance. He's going to go to England, and they're going to lead the attack on D-Day now, okay? These are French freedom fighters in France. By the way, they make carrying weapons look awesome. Like, look at this. International Women's Day. Would you ever look that cool in a trench coat and a gun? The French do everything cooler than we do. Damn it. Okay, Battle of Britain, of course. We have people on the roofs all the time looking for the attacks. Okay, complete destruction. Okay, we got kids. Every morning you'd wake up early. You would go figure out what part of town got bombed the night before. You'd go help them dig out, go back home, get changed, go to work, come back home, eat dinner at your house, sleep in the subway, sleep in the basement of a church somewhere, wake up, do it all again. All right, we got Africa and stuff like that. All right, here we go. So, as we know, Hitler is going to invade the Soviet Union. So, Hitler invades the Soviet Union in what we call Operation Barbosa, and you need to know that name. I'm about to show you a video clip here in a second. So, Lebensraum is what Hitler calls living space. He believes that because the Germans are the most powerful, because the Germans have such large needs, they get to take over territory. They call it Lebensraum. As Americans, we call it what? That we have the right to expand. Manifest destiny. Yes, here in America we call it manifest destiny. Here in Nazi Germany they call it Lebensraum. Okay? Now, when Hitler's expanding his borders, who's he bumping into? Industrialized powers, correct? So hence why it's going to have consequences. When we start our manifest destiny, who are we bumping into? Native Americans, correct? Who are not what? Industrialized, which is why we get to expand our living space and why Hitler doesn't keep that in mind. So on June 22nd, 1941, Hitler is going to invade the Soviet Union, and he is going to break his treaty with Stalin. Now keep in mind, Stalin really believed Hitler. Hitler's going to get about 250 miles into Russia before the Russians were like, oh shit, this is an attack. And they're about 200 miles out from Moscow, okay? The turning point of the war for the Russians is going to be a city called Stalingrad, and I'm going to show you a video clip here right now. So if you don't have it, you gotta go sit outside, live life. Julia, perfect. Julia, Lily, Michael, Miss Murphy, Greta, goodbye, go sit outside. Kristen, you need to sit outside too. You can't watch it because it's rated R. What test do you need, Kristen? Okay. Okay, so this movie is called Enemy at the Gates. It is absolutely one of my favorite movies. It's a classic. It is with Jude Law. It was made in, I think, 2001. It's a great movie. What up?
I have some business for like the middle of second period, like it starts at the middle of second period. So I could go right now.
Yeah, of course. Bye, sweetie. Okay, so what you're going to see is how unprepared the Russians were for war. Why were the Russians so unprepared? Yeah, they signed a treaty. They believed in the man. How would Hitler ever do us wrong? And that's the big problem here. Now, what is the biggest asset the Russians have? What is the biggest asset? It was the same thing for World War I. Henry, they have lots and lots and lots of people. And why is that an asset? Why is that an asset, Henry? They can afford to lose people, and they can lose a lot of people really, really quick, okay? And that's exactly what's going to happen. Why is my computer freaking out? It's freaking out. Why? show you too, I guess, on Monday. So if it's not going to play, there's nothing I can do. All right, let me get them in. You can come in. It's not playing. No, because I gotta get through content as well. So the more I get through today, the more I can show you just 2 on Monday. So Operation Barbosa, I'm going to show it to you on Monday. Just because it won't play. I don't know why, but I'm not going to wait too long for it. Here we go. On your whiteboard, let's do a review since we're here anyway. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the fighting technique that Hitler uses on both Poland and France. Good, Benji. Blitzkrieg. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the first thing Mussolini voids the Treaty of Versailles by invading what country? Personality 2, is that right, Kristen?
Yeah.
What country, Kayla? Ethiopia. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the first way that Hitler voids the Treaty of Versailles? What is the first way that Hitler voids the Treaty of Versailles? What the hell is that saying?
Military?
Oh, is that what that says?
It says military, kind of. Yeah.
As long as we're kind of there. What is it? Matthew. Expands the military. Then he starts growing his borders. Then he invades Poland. On your whiteboard, what day does World War II officially begin? What day does World War II? I need some years here, people. Good. No. What is it? Garrett.
September 1st, 1939.
September 1st, 1939. What is it called when Hitler said he needs growing room? Because they have a powerful empire and their people need more room. What is it called? It's his justification for conquering territories. Allie. Lebensraum. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the practice ground for Hitler's Blitzkrieg? What was the practice ground for Hitler's Blitzkrieg? What do we got? Miss Murphy. Spain. On your whiteboard, please tell me what country was the first country to void the Treaty of Versailles? Good. What is it, Evelyn? Japan. All right, here we go. So, U.S. involvement. Here we go. So the U.S. involvement, of course, it's probably going to work this one.
To live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked.
I don't know why. All right, here we go. So the United States, keep in mind, before we joined the war, we're trying to help our allies. We're always trying to help out England. We did the same thing in World War I. What is the name of the ship that we are smuggling things on that happens to get blown up? You're so close. Evelyn? Lusitania. So we're smuggling weapons into Europe. We're doing the same damn thing here again. We come up with this whole new policy called cash and carry. Well, the problem is England's running out of what? Money. So what do we start doing? A lend-lease. We'll give it to you now. You can pay us back later because we're just trying to give them weapons. Okay? You do need to write down this. So, United States cuts off oil supplies to Japan due to imperialist attitudes. United States cuts off oil to Japan due to imperialist attitudes. Who can raise your hand and tell me what the hell that means? What does that mean, Abby?
Since Japan was like trying to invade other countries, they cut off oil because they were like trying to take over.
Absolutely. They're completely disregard the Treaty of Versailles. And the United States puts a bunch of sanctions on them, sanctions on them, sanctions on them. Is Japan listening to these sanctions? Hello? No. They're doing whatever the hell they want. So the United States is like, fine, I'm cutting off your oil. We're no longer selling you oil. So let's just stop for a second. The United States provided Japan with 90% of its oil at that time. Imagine if the Middle East stopped selling us oil today. I can tell you right now, tomorrow we wouldn't have school. Thank God we don't, because it's Saturday and it's spring break. But if we were still in school next week, I can tell you we wouldn't be coming to school on Monday, Tuesday, or anything else. Why? We can't get to school. All of our electricity is powered by what? Burning fossil fuels, right? Okay? All of that. Our whole lives would completely come to a halt, yes? Think about your cars. You can't drive your cars anywhere. You can't move your cars. You can't do anything like that. All of the gasoline that we would have in the country is automatically confiscated and brought to the U.S. military, correct? Because we have to be able to protect ourselves, arm ourselves, and our military is more important than us getting to Publix. Okay? Our whole life would come to a jarring stop. How pissed would we be? Very pissed. We'd go straight to war, would we not? Get our oil. I gotta get to Publix. And my cute Mini Cooper, I gotta drive him in. He needs a car wash in the moment, though. All right. So, how do you think Japan's gonna feel when we cut off their oil? Oh, they are livid. We've literally cut off their lifeblood, is what they say. So, what do? They bomb us. And why do they pick Hawaii? Why, Henry with a hand? Our Pacific-based fleet is stationed in Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu. Okay? So, they picked that because that's where our biggest fleet was. Now, 2 good things happened on a terrible day. 2 good things. So, a terrible day, 4,000 Americans are going to be killed, trapped. Some are going to be killed in the worst way possible, trapped underneath. Couldn't imagine. Okay? 2 good things did work out in our favor. Okay? First thing is, the United States at this time only had 3 aircraft carriers. 2 of them are in the Atlantic. 1 of them has a home in Pearl Harbor. The day before the bombing, the carrier left on a training thing. Okay? So, what is a major piece of World War II in the Pacific? Aircraft carriers. So that is incredibly important that we had 1 already over here. By the end of the war, we're going to grow up to 12, but we only had 3 at the beginning of the war. Keep in mind, Japan has about 8 by the time they bomb Pearl Harbor, so you're going to see a huge difference. The second thing is they're going to obviously bomb to hell Pearl Harbor. They do not bomb the salvage station and rebuilding and naval construction site on the island on the other side. Why is that a big deal? Why is that a big deal? We can fix our ships faster, correct? So some of the ships that were destroyed on Pearl Harbor had to be pulled out of the harbor and abandoned. Okay. Other ships that had a lot of damage we were able to fix in a very timely manner and get them back out there. Okay. So Pearl Harbor is going to happen on December 7th, 1941. You do need to know that date. December 7th, 1941. A day that will live in infamy. Actually, he doesn't say it that way, but the tone and the inflection are a little wrong. However, what's going to happen is it's going to take a major hit onto our Navy in the Pacific. United States is going to declare war on Japan and Germany on that day because we got to come to our allies' aid. Churchill and FDR are besties, by the way. They have the cutest relationship. They literally giggle with glee. During FDR dies towards the end of the war in Europe. Churchill comes to the funeral and is a complete mess. Literally can't function. At his funeral, he was supposed to speak, ends up just crying at the podium saying the world has lost a true light. Really super emotional, besties for life. When Churchill dies at the very end of his life, he says his one and true friend is FDR and can't wait to meet him. So, romance, so cute. All they did was get drunk together and make plans to win wars. Worked out pretty well for us, can we agree? So, who cares at the end? So, United States is going to declare war. It's going to happen. They go. Anyone here ever been to Pearl Harbor? I have! It's one of the few places I have gone, so give me that. Thank you kindly. So the bombing of Pearl Harbor, if you go to Hawaii, people just don't go to the beaches. Get a little history, please. So this is what the Japanese Empire is going to look like. They have over 1 million square miles with 150 million people living underneath it. With the bombing of Pearl Harbor, what the Japanese are doing is they're declaring war on their way of life. So they bomb Pearl Harbor. So once we get attacked, okay, our Pacific fleet is injured. It takes us a while to get the war going in the Pacific. Now, I'm going to tell you a little personal anecdote here. My grandfather fought in World War II. Okay, he fought in World War II. When I was in middle school, I asked him. He died about 10 years ago now. I have a bunch of World War II memorabilia and stuff like that at the house. Anyway, I asked him when I was in middle school because I was learning about World War II. I was like, what front did you fight on? I was so proud I knew the term, are you on the European front or the Pacific front? And he was like, oh, I fought on the Pacific front. I was like, oh. so boring. Hitler's so cool, man. You're fighting true evil. Like, oh man, how lame. So in high school, there was a HBO documentary that came out. There was 2 of them. One called The Pacific and one called The Band of Brothers. Holy. I watched both with my dad. And I finally got like a realization of how horrific the Pacific was. So fun fact about my grandfather. He came back from war, married my grandmother, had 3 children, and beat the hell out of her every single day for about 9 years that they were married. Almost 3 times she went to the hospital and almost died because of the beating. And when my oldest uncle turned 12, he said that if my Nana doesn't divorce him, he's going to kill him tonight. So my Nana, Marguerite, was the first divorced woman in Walpole, Massachusetts in the 1950s. She divorced her husband, lost all of her money. He refused to pay for anything. She worked in a grocery store and they lived above it. My grandfather was a complete drunk. We called him Grumpy, by the way. Didn't make that connection until later. Why we called him Grumpy? I would call the grandfather Grumpy. No, just mine. You call yours Grumpy?
My stepsister called her.
Grumpy. Well, mine was a raging alcoholic, complete drunk. And the reason is, found out when I was about 16, my grandfather spent about 1.5 years in a Japanese prison camp on the islands in the Pacific. Yeah, he was tortured for about 1.5 years, starved basically to death, and eventually was recaptured by the United States. Not that it justifies being the hell of your wife almost 3 times to death or anything like that, but it gives you more insight. What assignment I have for you over the break, ladies and gentlemen? Obviously, you have your focus, your spice, and your map to do. I would like you to ask your parents about your grandparents. What war did they fight in? Were they in the Pacific or were they in the European front? Ask about it. That's your family heritage, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and sadly, our World War II vets are dying off at an incredibly fast rate. Find out about your family heritage. And if you are Pacific, my last class was like, Miss Bennett, can you post a bunch of links to some of this stuff? And I was like, totally, absolutely. Find out about your family heritage. If they were in the Pacific like mine, they don't get that much credit. Can we agree? They're going to fight in the Pacific for 1.5 years after the Western Front, after European Front closes, and you're going to have more deaths in the Pacific than you are going to have in Europe. The reason is the combat style over in the Pacific is the worst. When you think about Marines today, you think of complete, right? Just boss. People who can kill you in 15 different ways. Their reputation was earned in the islands. And the reason is because they are seeing things that no one else is seeing. Okay? And they are going through some terribly horrific times. If you want to see something that will just jar your soul, watch The Pacific. It's phenomenal. It's free on HBO if you get it. It's about 8 hours. You will be able... It is incredibly jarring, the fighting scenes. I used to show part of it, but my room's not dark enough, and you fight at night. You're walking through the jungle, and you can't see in front of you, and all of a sudden there's like traps, there's booby traps everywhere, there's tunnels and all that stuff. So you're fighting, you're just walking with your buddy, and then all of a sudden there's a Japanese soldier next to you, and just like cutting your throat, attacking, doing all this stuff. It's like with the craziest stuff. We're falling into pits, and there's like bamboo sticking, like at every turn, there's all these different crazy things, because the Japanese are completely embodied in these islands. And so when we have our boys showing up, they can't detect where things are because the Japanese have been hiding on these islands. That's why our boys who are coming back from Japan, from the Pacific are way more scarred and jarred than our boys from Europe. And it's because of the things they entitled and the things they experienced, because you couldn't tell who was who. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, so here is Pearl Harbor. You need to check it out if you go to Hawaii. Okay. Japanese victories, the Bataan Death March. It's a little island that had a lagoon in the middle. And if you were sent to that island, they just made you walk around the island until you died. They didn't want to feed you, and you sitting around makes you live longer. If they made you walk, you died faster without using bullets. So guess what they made you do? Walk. And so instead of shooting all of the soldiers, because they have about 300,000 American soldiers that go to this island, we lost a lot. About over 100,000 of them are going to die on this island, and they only had to shoot maybe 10,000 bullets because it would just make you walk and walk and walk, and if you stop, they would shoot you to keep everyone else moving, and you would die of complete exhaustion. It's a pretty effective way to kill people without using as many bullets. Okay, so when we're talking about the Battle in the Pacific, it's important that you are aware of it. So once the war in the Pacific starts, the Japanese are going to get a huge head start. They're going to be literally killing us for about the first year and a half. The big major turning point is the Battle of Midway. Okay, so when we're jumping back over to Europe, key factors of defeating the Axis tide is we have a lot of people here in the United States. Look how big our country is and compare it. We're literally the size of Europe. So once the United States gets pulled into the war, that's the end, essentially beginning of the end for Hitler, beginning of the end for Japan. Except Hitler's going to be kicking our butt for about a good year. Takes us a while to get our foothold in. Eventually the Allies are going to win in Europe. So the Red Army, the Soviet Union, gains offensive after Stalingrad, which is the video clip I was trying to show you, but I will show you on Monday. And we're going to see the British are going to attack North Africa. So the first step to Europe is the Allies wage war in Africa first. Now, who wants America to come desperately? Who needs America to come and help them desperately? England needs help, but who else needs help? The Soviet Union needs a lot of help. If I showed you my video clip, which I'm so annoyed it didn't work today, you would see that. Russia, in Battle of Stalingrad, 7 million Russians are going to die in one sitting. They're literally just going to get killed. Only about 250,000 Germans are going to die in the city. The reason is they don't have the weapons to fight. So Stalin's going to say, America, help me, help me. Who are the Americans going to go straight to Russia? They go straight to Africa. So is Stalin happy or pissed? Pissed. How is this going to affect later? You think he's going to hold on to this resentment? Yeah, called the Cold War. So what we're going to see is the British and U.S. are going to attack North Africa. The reason why we attack North Africa first is we need a staging ground in order to move north, because at this point, the Europeans, Germany has conquered them all. So the U.S. are going to start bombing, and we got D-Day. How much time do I have?
None.
Oh, okay. So what's going to happen on Monday, I'm going to show you Enemy at the Gates and Saving Private Ryan. Does that sound good to you? Okay, so please don't think you're not going to see them. I just don't know why it's not working. But now that we're ahead, it's good. Yes, he's a coward. Don't go walking around saying that Hitler just moved to Cuba. Well, some kids believe that. And Hitler, oh, you've never seen, he's not too far.
He's with Tupac in Cuba.
Yeah. What up? It's the December 8th. We get bombed on the 7th, we declare war on the 8th.
Because they had like some...
Yeah, they declare war as soon as we declare war on them, which makes sense.
So they said